Okay, let's give this a try, shall we? So, my name's Matt, and this is the Matt's Movie Reviews official channel. Now, here's the thing, I've been gone for a little while, had to do some personal things, so I wanted to try to play a little bit of catch up with my viewers and anyone new who wants to come in. And I thought to myself, I could use something new to do where I can just talk about the movies I've seen unfiltered and just share my reviews of them here rather than having to sit and edit, do all that stuff. Just going to do it here in live. And if people jump in and want to comment, feel free to do so. Maybe I'll have the chance to read your comment back here in the stream and give you a shout out. Or, if you just want to watch, that's okay too. I'd be happy with either. So, how this is going to work is I've seen a fair number of movies over the past month. It's been quite a while since I've sat and talked about a movie. I did do a couple of videos about some of the more recent ones that I've seen, like Thunderbolts and Another Simple Favor. So I won't talk about those ones because those reviews are already up for my recent releases videos that I do. So what I'm just going to do is just talk about the other ones that I have seen. And I'm going to talk about most of them. There was one or two that I just don't feel like I have too much to say about the movie. Maybe we'll just see as time goes on. So let's go ahead and just get started with the first one, which I'm just looking at my list of stuff I've watched right now. And so my first one's actually Bad Teacher from 2011, starring Cameron Diaz. Now, this is an R-rated comedy movie, and I had heard about this movie some, not a lot, so I kind of went into it fairly cold. And the basic premise is that Cameron Diaz plays basically a gold digger who has this rich boyfriend, and she's a teacher and she's about to quit teaching because she's going to marry this guy until he dumps her because he realizes, and his family's like, oh yeah, she just wants your money. So she has to go back to teaching at the school she just quit at, and she just doesn't really care. She's just like playing movies all day for the kids and just not really doing anything. She's like drinking in class and trying to hide it in like a false bottom in her desk drawer and all that kind of stuff. And then there's this new substitute teacher that starts working there, played by Justin Timberlake. And she wants to be with him because he also comes from money. And she thinks that the way to his heart is to get just to get some breast implants to make them bigger, because apparently his ex-girlfriend had ones that were like that. Okay, sure. So her mission is to get these breast implants, and obviously she doesn't have the money, so she has to resort to all these different things to get the money, like stealing school fundraiser money and doing anything she can. And then eventually she learns that the teacher who gets the highest scores for the state test, basically kind of like an SOL sort of thing, if a teacher's class gets the highest scores, they get a bonus, and that'll like tip her over the edge to get her this operation that she desperately wants. So that's basically it. And it's, she does all the requisite things you think she'd do. She drinks, she smokes, she generally is unpleasant to most people and just kind of callous and just speaks her mind. And like Justin Timberlake he's sort of the aloof guy. He's not really understanding it. There's also another teacher who likes him, played by Lucy Punch, and she's very much like the proud, I love teaching, like overzealous educator character. And so obviously that's Diaz's competition. And so there's a rivalry with the two of them and all that kind of stuff. Now, here's what I'll say about this movie that's positive. Diaz is game to play this character. Like, she really likes, she's relishing this part. Like, she clearly is absolutely fine letting loose in this role. And it is kind of fun seeing, an actor who doesn't usually play a loose role like this do something like this and do it well. Kind of like, I mean, not that it was as good as this, but like, Jeff Bridges is the dude in The Big Lebowski. Like, it's not a role that you would have picked at first for that actor, but seeing them do it, they're good at it. And Diaz definitely is game in this movie, and she's bringing 100% to the proceedings. And there are a few laughs, mostly from Jason Segel, who plays the gym teacher, who also has a crush on Diaz in the movie. And there's kind of an arc with the two of them as well. So, but the main problem I have with Bad Teacher is simply this: it just never rose above just being okay. Like, it never rose above any of the things that I said that I assumed would happen in this. Like, she drinks, she smokes weed, she does everything underhanded things she can to get what she wants. Like, it never goes above the bar that you expect a character like this to do. Like, it doesn't do anything really outrageous. It doesn't do anything that tips you over the edge in this kind of stuff. In the debauchery. It's not like The Hangover where it's like everything keeps increasing. It never rises above level 1 or 2, and it just stays there. And that's really the main problem I have with the movie. And also, I was half thinking that her character would have some sort of redemption at the end. It doesn't really happen. It's just like, she is not a great person who does some bad stuff, and that's it. She doesn't really grow beyond that, except, in one way that I won't spoil, but it's not quite enough. You know, it's a little frustrating because when you see a movie like this, when you think R-rated comedy, you want to really relish in the insanity that's going to ensue. Now, I know not every movie can be like that. Like, not every movie can be The Hangover. Not every movie can be The Wolf of Wall Street. But, you know, you kind of have to step things up a little bit as it goes on. And I don't know, just this movie just didn't do it for me. And that's really my biggest criticism. That, and like the jokes that are in it, like a lot of times, like a joke would happen and I just didn't react. I was just like, okay, I see. Pause for the laugh moment there that they put in, all that kind of stuff. So, for my rating, unfortunate to say, this is a thumbs down for me. I mean, if it's this sounds like the kind of movie you would enjoy, please go ahead and watch it. Um, I highly think that, I think the movie did okay. So clearly there was an audience for it at the time, but I don't know how much it's really gained traction since then. So, but who knows? Okay, so that was my review of Bad Teacher. Now I'm going to talk about, let me look at my list here. Oh, another R-rated comedy. Funny enough, Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates from 2016, starring Zac Efron and Adam Devine. Here, let me just get some water first. Okay, that's better. Now, Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates. Um, Again, another R-rated comedy. Premise isn't bad. It's about these two brothers, played by Efron and Divine, who party a little too hard, and their family knows this about them. And their sister is about to get married in Hawaii, and what they want is for them to bring dates to the wedding, like nice upstanding women to the wedding who will kind of keep them in check from their, wild impulses. So they make this ad on Craigslist and they send it out. It becomes a big thing on the internet. And eventually, these two women, played by Aubrey Plaza and Anna Kendrick, see this, and they're kind of similar to Mike and Dave in some ways. Like, they party, they smoke weed, they do all the stuff they basically do, but they really want the vacation and the chance to, to to get away with something like this, I guess. So they pretend to be these like really nice, upstanding women, and they eventually lie their way to getting to go to the wedding with them. And then obviously once they get to Hawaii, shenanigans ensue, things happen. Will this wedding actually happen the way it should have? You've seen a movie like this before. Now, unfortunate to say, the same thing about Bad Teacher. I also thought about this movie. But I will say this movie does have a bit more jokes that I was laughing at than I was at Bad Teacher. Because some of the shenanigans they get into, some of the stuff that does happen, the way it happens, I didn't completely expect. So that bumps it up a couple points for me. Like, there's a scene where Anna Kendrick and Sugarland Beard, who plays their sister, they get high on drugs and like do really stupid things. And there's a specific part of that scene where I was not expecting that to happen at all. And I was like, okay, that's a thing that just happened. And okay. Like, there's some stuff like that where I'm like, okay, they went farther with that. Okay. Um and Efron and Divine are fine together. Plaza and Kendrick have good chemistry. I mean, the four of them are good together. The one that does stand out to me is probably Anna Kendrick, because her character probably has the most layered like story to her. And to see her arc in the movie change, and her character also probably getting the most laughs in the movie, it definitely helps. And you can tell like she's game to play this role and she's having fun with it, kind of like Diaz in Bad Teacher, because Kendrick doesn't usually play irresponsible characters like this, at least not that I've seen. So, you know, that was kind of interesting to see. Um the rest of it just kind of does, again, the typical things you expect. People are going to get injured and they're going to things, ruining things is in these guys' DNA. So obviously things are going to go wrong, and you just know it's going to happen through a lot of the movie as it goes on. If you've seen any movie like this, you know exactly what's going to happen. And it does just happen the way that I thought that it would. And I'm like, I just want, like, yes, there are some moments where they kind of went the extra mile with an idea or like with the humor. the cast is game, but they just don't rise above a certain line. And I'm just like, come on, guys. Like you have an opportunity here. You could really make something of this. Like you could really go bonkers. But they just don't do that. And it's kind of a shame. And you know, I, I don't know. That was a running theme I seem to have with these two movies, with Bad Teacher and Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates. So unfortunate to say, Mike and Dave, thumbs down. I'm probably not going to watch either of these movies again, but we do what we can. Um, with the movies we watch. Alrighty. Next on my list is Bombshell from 2019. Now, this is a change of pace from the first two movies, which is a good thing. So, in Bombshell, the basic premise is that this is the true story about the women at the Fox network who spoke out against the CEO of Fox News, Roger Ailes, about sexual harassment. And this was like before Me Too happened. This was like this takes place in the midst of the 2016 presidential election. When Trump was gaining a lot of traction and Hillary Clinton was also gaining traction. And it follows three women, two of them who are known talents at Fox. And forgive me, I don't remember their names. I think one of them is Megyn Kelly, and I can't remember who the other one is. It's been a little bit since I've seen the movie, so I apologize. And then it focuses on a third woman played by Margot Robbie, who she's a composite of different people from what I did in my research after I watched the movie. And so it's Charlize Theron, Nicole Kidman, Margot Robbie, and there's John Lithgow plays Roger Ailes in a prosthetic fat suit and everything. And basically it's about when all this stuff is going on with the election and the coverage they're doing. First, Charlize Theron's character, I think she's Megyn Kelly. I could be wrong. She at one of the debates that involved Trump, she asked him a lot of different questions, and she gets under fire from the audience at Fox, thinking, oh, she's a traitor, she hates her country, she's manipulating Trump into looking stupid and all this stuff. So she takes a break from the network for a little while. And then Nicole Kidman's character, she's very outspoken on the air. So she gets demoted to this like afternoon time slot, and where there's like no viewers, and she's in the middle of trying to form a lawsuit against Roger Ailes. So she's the one who sort of starts the whole domino effect. And then Margot Robbie is a staffer who starts to work on Bill O'Reilly's show. But she really wants to be an on-air talent because that's what she started doing in college. So she goes to meet Roger Ailes, and then that's kind of where we see some of the stuff that he does, and it's uncomfortable. So there's that. And there's also, she makes a friend at the network played by Kate McKinnon, who's basically like a liberal Democrat working at Fox, which, okay, it's kind of funny. And that's another thing about the movie too, is for as serious as this movie could be, it does have some levity to it. And I think it's because the director of the movie, Jay Roach, he did like the Austin Powers movies. He did The Campaign with Will Ferrell and Zach Galifianakis. So he kind of knows how to balance the serious moments with moments of levity, which I think is kind of helpful with a movie like this because this could just be doom and gloom the entire time. And maybe some people would have preferred that. I don't know. But well, I thought it was kind of smart because there are some uncomfortable scenes in this movie involving Roger Ailes and and Margot Robbie's character. And I kind of liked having the levity in there a little bit. So that's something else to think about. For me anyway. Now my overall thoughts on the movie, I enjoyed it. I didn't know anything about this story, so naturally I went in pretty cold. Like I remember when the movie came out, like I thought it looked interesting. I just didn't have the chance to go see it. So, but now that I've seen it, I think it does do a good job balancing these three different characters really well, especially since most of them are based on real people and showing their different struggles through this whole ordeal and the eventual lawsuit and the downfall of Roger Ailes and everything. And it really does paint a picture of what it's like in this kind of setting. Obviously, there's some exaggeration, particularly how do I say this? There's some exaggeration with how I think some of the ideology is presented. Potentially, I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, sorry. I mean, I don't know. Maybe nowadays it's not too out there to think about, um, but overall, my only criticism of the movie is I think it could use a little bit more focus, and that's because we have three different characters that we're focusing on dealing with this in three different ways that does eventually result in the one thing. And that's fine, but it doesn't really give a couple of the characters enough time to really develop enough. Or I should say maybe not enough, but they just don't have enough time to really shine sometimes. And like Nicole Kidman, for example, I think I could have used a little bit more of her in the movie, like just to see her side of things. Not that it's badly done; it's done well, but or Margot Robbie, I think we could have seen a little bit more of, because sort of in the back half of the movie, it more becomes Charlize Theron's movie in some ways. So I think it was, had maybe they just focused on one angle of it, or just spent a little bit more time with each of them, I think it would have been a little bit better. But overall, I enjoyed this movie. Like I was pleasantly surprised by it. I liked it. The uncomfortable moments are understandably uncomfortable, and I think it did its job well. So, thumbs up for me for Bombshell. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it. Um, so let's move on to, let's see what's the next one on my list. The Assistant from 2019. Now, I am really excited to talk about this movie actually, because I think of the movies I've seen recently, this is probably the best one. At least I think. I'd have to look at my list again, but yeah, no, definitely one of the best movies I've seen recently. So yeah. So The Assistant is about Julia Gardner from Ozark. She plays an assistant to a Hollywood executive who we don't see in the movie. And it's just a day, it's a typical day just working for him. And usually bottle movies like this that take place more or less in one location and focus really just on one character's perspective, sometimes it doesn't always work, but this one does. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So she's just, going through her day, doing her routine tasks, taking care of things for the boss, that kind of stuff. But we're seeing throughout the day a pattern of what is most likely perceived sexual misconduct, where, like, women are coming back to collect things that were left there, and she's, he's interviewing a couple of women during the day, and, like, they're hiring a new assistant who has, like, no experience, all these little clues sort of forming. And eventually it's the point where she decides to try to speak up about it to the HR person. And that doesn't go very well. And I won't spoil it, but it's probably the best scene in the movie. With Matthew McFadden from Succession and Deadpool and Wolverine as the HR guy. It's what this movie does really well, I think, is it makes the menialness of the job interesting. Like, even when she's doing just this menial task, because of what we know is most likely going on in the unease of the situation, it's never boring. Like, this movie is not even 90 minutes long. Like, it's a short movie. But this is a movie where, like, it could have been like 2 or 3 hours, and I still would like watching her do the dishes and seeing her, cleaning the office again, like, it never is boring in that way. And it's kind of rare when a movie is able to do that really, really well. And this movie's one of them, at least in my opinion. Now, that might not be everyone's opinion. I know there are some people, like, I saw the divide from critics and audiences on this, where the critics absolutely loved it and the audiences just did not get into it at all. And I get it. You see someone doing menial things for more than half the movie, you're going to get bored. I can understand that, because there are some movies out there that have done that and do it poorly. This, to me, is not one of them. And Julia Gardner is excellent in this movie. She does a really good job. She's very she's very she underplays it perfectly. We sympathize with her. We feel bad for her, and then she's kind of stuck in this weird kind of situation mentally and with the job, because it's explained she's only been at this job for a few months, so there's kind of a lot on the line, if certain things were to happen. And it does kind of end on a bitter ish note. Like, it's not a really, like, oh, happy ending. It's more like, it's just what it is kind of ending, kind of one of those. But I don't know, just it was interesting to me, in like how the coworkers, their feelings about it, like how they interact about it in contrast to her. You see the just throughout the day, just the tension just kind of mounts, and, like, especially to the HR scene, which is really, really good. um and yeah, no, I can't recommend this movie enough if you haven't seen it. This is like a great indie movie, and this came out in 2019, like when Ozark was, I think, still on. So, I think she was probably, like, fresh off of that before she did that. So, 100% thumbs up on The Assistant. If you haven't seen this movie, I recommend it. But maybe you'll disagree with me. I don't know. But let me know in the comments if you had a chance to actually watch it. Okay, what's next on the list? Hmm. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to see. Okay. Um, so the so American Pie, the original American Pie from 1999. I'm gonna be honest. I don't have too much to say about this one. It's fine. It just very much felt like a movie of its time. Where maybe had I been the right age when it came out. I mean, I was like 2 when it came out, so I didn't watch it till now. And I've seen other movies like this, like Porky's, where it's a sex comedy thing. I think had I been a part of that generation that saw it, I'd probably really like it. But because I've seen other movies like it, it's fine. It made me laugh some. It has some good moments in it. It is a little heartfelt at times. But that's just my general quick. American Pie is sideways thumb. It's okay. It's fine. I don't have a giant opinion about it one way or the other. I'm sorry if it's a bit of a disappointment if you're a really big fan, but that's just my quick thought on American Pie. I just don't have much to say. As I said, there were some I was gonna skip it, but I thought, oh, I'll at least mention it because I know that's a pretty well known comedy movie, basically. Alrighty. Talked about that one. Okay. So we have come to the Sandy Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie. This movie's awful. um, to give some context, I grew up with SpongeBob, and I'm a fan of the show. Obviously, the first few seasons are the best, but I still enjoy watching the show if it's on TV now and then. If there's nothing else on, there's just something about SpongeBob I'm always going to enjoy, with maybe an exception to this. So, to give my quick thoughts on the other SpongeBob movies, to put it into perspective to this one, I should feel like I should just do that first. So the first SpongeBob movie, hands down, is the best one. You can't fight with anyone on that. I have yet to see anyone who has dared to say that any of the others are better than the first one. First one's the best one, hands down. It's a nostalgic classic. It ends the show technically, so boom. Sponge Out of Water. It's fine. I don't think it needed to be in theaters. If anything, it probably would have worked fine just as a TV movie, but what do I know? It's the highest grossing SpongeBob movie. Sure. But it's fine. It has its funny moments. It does its job serviceably, even if it just kind of just puts everything back to square one at the end, which I found kind of annoying. But it's okay. Sponge on the Run, or I could call it Camp Coral the movie, because basically the last act is just nothing but advertising for Camp Coral, and it annoyed me. But Sponge on the Run, again, it's just another SpongeBob movie. Like it's okay at best, but it's not very good in some respects. And the emotional climax of the movie is a big disservice to the movie, I think. So you have, my descending order, one, two, three. Okay. Now we have this one, which is technically 4. And you'd think one of the smartest characters in the show would have one of the better movies, right? Sadly, that is not the case at all. So, this movie is you know, I've talked about movies that I gave thumbs down to in this video earlier, Mike and Dave and Bad Teacher, but I at least had positive things to say about them. I don't know if there's anything positive about this one. I'm really hard pressed to think, but how about I talk about the story first? So the story is simply this. So this is Sandy's movie, and what it's about is that while she loves living in Bikini Bottom, she does kind of miss home a little bit. And that's established at the beginning. Then Bikini Bottom is excavated from the sea, with only Sandy and SpongeBob being left behind. And they're on their way to a scientific research facility in Texas. So Sandy and SpongeBob have to go to the surface to get everyone back. And so she gives him something so he can breathe above water. Sure, whatever. And of course, she comes across her family, which turns out they're a traveling circus troupe that drive a van because why not? The villains are these human scientists who are planning to clone the Bikini Bottom citizens, make them like virtually indestructible and able to live above the water so they can be sold as pets / toys. And it's all thought about by Wanda Sykes. You see where I'm going with this? This movie is so bafflingly bonkers. I don't understand how this got greenlit, how this got onto Netflix. I really just don't. I mean, at the very least, it's on Netflix. This wasn't released theatrically. And it seems the fans have agreed this is pretty much the lowest bar I think the movies have gotten to. Because, yeah, no, the premise is ridiculous. There's really no depth for Sandy and her family. Like, there's maybe a little bit, but there's not enough. SpongeBob is a sidekick in the movie, and that's fine. Like, he doesn't have to be the main focus, but you know, it's just the whole thing with the villains is stupid. It's just horrendously stupid to me. I really don't understand logic. I mean, okay, the first movie, Plankton steals Neptune's crown, frames Mr. Krabs for the theft. So he gets frozen, so he can steal the formula, so then he can enslave everybody. Okay, I can get behind that. In Sponge Out of Water, a pirate steals the formula. They got to go up to the surface to get it back. That I can get behind fine. Sponge on the Run. Gary has been sold off to Poseidon. I mean, I don't like the movie, but I at least understand that. This is just like, what infused marijuana did they smoke to come up with this? I ask you. I simply don't get this. And it gets more ridiculous from there. I don't even want to say it. It's so stupid. So look, bottom line, thumbs way down on this. And lack of development, not the best animation even for CG animation. Like the villain stuff is so dumb. The humor is bad. Just nothing about it really works. And I'm glad it's only on streaming, because if that got released theatrically, holy God, would people have been annoyed. Okay. Still got a few more to talk about, so I should probably get into it. I don't know how I'm going to top that, though. Well, I guess I know how, because my next one is another SpongeBob movie, Plankton the movie, which is also on Netflix. Um, I watched this and the Sandy movie back to back. Here's what I'll say: the Plankton movie is actually kind of decent. Is it as good as the first movie? No. Is it as good as like Sponge Out of Water? It's okay, like that one is, you know. But after I sat through the Sandy movie, I was like, good God, what's the Plankton movie gonna be? And it turns out much better than the Sandy movie. So in this one is about Plankton once again trying to steal the formula and it doesn't work. What a shock. Sorry, I just need some water. Who would have thought? He fails yet again, and Karen is tired of him not listening to her ideas. Because she has good ideas, how to get people in the restaurant or how to get the formula, and Plankton never listens. So she finally decides that she's going to do the one thing that he was never able to do, which is take over the world. And she just decides to do it by herself. So she starts by taking over Bikini Bottom. Everyone is understandably pissed at him and is trying to get him to make up with Karen, but he's never really apologized for anything. And he doesn't really understand where she's coming from. So SpongeBob and him go on sort of this odyssey of the mind where Plankton is unwrapping like the history of him and Karen to see where things went wrong and all that kind of stuff. And there are some parts of the movie like that that do work, and it is interesting to see what their history is, because I mean it's been implied in the show, but it's never been like fully confirmed or anything. But some of those moments are pretty good, and seeing Karen also go into like full villain mode is also something I wasn't expecting, but it was interesting to see. And the animation in this too is also much better than the Sandy one. It's definitely an improvement. So, and I think what really works about this movie is it helps make Plankton and Karen more relatable. And that's one of the most important things about it, is if you're going to focus on a villain. I don't know what that noise is. What the heck is that? Okay, well, I'm just gonna have to keep going. So, um, is it like a helicopter or a plane? I have no idea. But anyway, um, this movie works because it makes them relatable, makes them likable, and in seeing them go through the past, how they met and like all this stuff, it's funny and it also works, and it does utilize the side characters a little bit better than in the Sandy movie, and it's funnier too. As I just said, it's funnier. So this was leaps and bounds better. Now, would I say this is a perfect movie? No. The, there are some things you can question. There are some things you could poke at, I'm sure. Again, this is a movie where, like, it makes sense that it's on streaming. It doesn't need to be in theaters necessarily, although sometimes the animation is decent enough where I was like, oh, seeing this on the big screen wouldn't have been a bad idea. But I think it's done best on streaming, especially because, now this is SpongeBob movie number 5 and of 6, because we're gonna have another one, and I don't know why, but we are. um but the Plankton movie, it makes the villains likable and is the main focus of something. It does work. The humor definitely works in parts. The animation is better. I'll give the Plankton movie a thumbs up. I was surprised by it. I mean, maybe the bar from the Sandy movie was so low, I was extra generous with this. But I don't know. I think the Plankton movie does kind of work. I mean, I'd probably put it like with Sponge Out of Water, probably in terms of how well it works. It's okay. Like it's about there in quality to me. But yeah, so there's that one. Okay. I have a couple more and then I'll set you all free. um so this next one it's another animated movie that I watched, and I really just watched it because it was short and I just needed something to turn on. I watched the Garfield movie with Chris Pratt from 2024. Talk about the most generic generic animated movie you could watch. The just generic. It's just so boring and generic. There's nothing that exciting about it. And it's a shame because Garfield's such a iconic character in some ways. You would think that another like an animated film outing would be better than the live action ones were. But not this one. And I remember when it came out, everyone was just like, it's what it is. And no one seemed to be upset this time that Chris Pratt was voicing yet another icon of people's childhoods, like the Mario movie. Well, also, this one didn't nearly make the money that the Mario movie did. I mean, the Mario movie's in the $1 billion club now, and Garfield, I think, didn't even make like $100 million. So, who knows? But basically, it's Garfield's story about how he met with John, or how he met John and got adopted. And then Odie comes in the picture because he has a dad named Vic who left him in the alley to try to go get some food, but he never came back. And so he's like, oh, I was abandoned and all this stuff. And I don't want anything to do with him. And then, of course, Garfield and Odie get kidnapped by a crazy cat played by Hannah Waddingham. And they explain that they captured him to lure out Garfield's dad, Vic, played by Sam Jackson. And basically, they have to steal a bunch of milk for her because she's crazy and she'll, they have 3 days to do it. So they go on this heist in this dairy factory to steal milk, and things happen. And it was a movie that it went in one ear and out the other to me. There's just nothing exciting, nothing interesting, nothing remotely memorable about this movie. It is the most bare basic generic animated movie you probably could put out there. It really didn't do anything for me. I'm just going to be honest. And I like Garfield. I watched one of the Garfield cartoons growing up. I read the comic books as a kid. So I like Garfield enough that I was hoping there'd be a little something to it, but Turns out there was zero something to it. It just existed in front of me as I watched it. And it's not even like it's like they got good people in it, but just give them nothing good to do. I, I don't know. It's just another example of taking an IP and just making something just to make something. Like it didn't need to exist. It didn't need to be made, and the actors could have skipped this paycheck probably. I don't know. So Garfield down. Okay. Almost done. Wrapping up here. All right, the last one that I will talk about is Geostorm from 2017. Now, this was also on Netflix, and I watched this again. I'll say this, I like a good disaster movie. I think that disaster movies to me, it's like a guilty pleasure. And even if they're ridiculous, like The Day After Tomorrow or like San Andreas, there's still something about him that I like. I don't know what it is, but I usually like disaster movies. Except for this one. God, I did not have a good streak with this movie marathon aside from like 2 movies or 3 movies. Yeah, Geostorm might be one of the dumbest disaster movies I've seen in quite a while. And that's saying something. So follow this premise with me, if you will. So in this movie, in the near future, which is now our past, they have figured out a way to control the Earth's weather because they were having a bunch of storms that were being out of control and they couldn't stop them. So, through this network of satellites, all controlled by the International Space Station, the Earth can control its weather. Okay. And of course, the head scientist of this is Gerard Butler because that casting makes sense. He gets fired because he's too abrasive for the job and they let him go, even though he's done nothing but good for the company and for the place that he was working at. 3 years go by. Some glitches are happening on board this weather station. So they need Gerard Butler to go back to see what the heck is going on. And obviously, it turns out it's going to be sabotage because the reasoning is really stupid. And it just is like, really does drive home the point that, like, when you utilize a technology, like, controlled by one thing, so like all computers controlled by one thing or all this controlled by one thing, it never goes well. And I think that also has to do with, controlling the freaking weather. When you have it all in one thing, someone can actually get into it and mess with it. And that's exactly what happens. Even the disaster effects in this movie are terrible. Like, I've seen better disaster effects from 20 years ago than in this movie. It's like it's like they had this cool idea and then the studio said, yeah, we'll do that, but you gotta like do it with half a budget. And they're like, I'm sorry, what? And then they made the movie anyway. Oh, it's so stupid. It's so stupid. I feel like I've just been ranting for half this video. Maybe you're getting entertainment out of it. I don't know. But yeah. So Geostorm, of course, hits just all the check boxes a disaster movie should do, destroying landmarks. Eventually, they'll save the day, ridiculous reason for sabotage, all that kind of stuff. Stupid human characters. I don't know what else to say, man. I'm running on empty. Okay. So, that is going to conclude Matt's movie marathons number 1. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope if you watch this post live that you will watch it, Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe. I'm going to try to do more of these in the future. I know this is kind of a weird experiment talking about a bunch of stuff at once, but I wanted to give it a try because I think that this is a good way to do things. I don't have to sit and edit a bunch of videos. Like I just did this in less than an hour, and this would have saved me like days of editing and everything else. So let me know in the comments if you like me just talking about it openly like this, or if you prefer me to just keep it short and sweet. Um, so yeah, just thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.